What's up, CrossFit Linchpin? Today is Thursday, the 26th of September, 2019. Hope everybody's day is off to a wonderful start. It's 8:22 a.m. Pacific time here in the great state of Washington. And as always, I'll try to be very good about answering questions that are out there. So if you got a question, throw it out there, and I will make some sort of an attempt to answer it. But I do have a question from somebody that I'm going to address directly today, which I thought everybody could benefit from. So, coffee. So good in the morning. It's raining, of course, here in Washington. The fall is coming, winter is coming. But anyway, on to the question. So one of the members of the CrossFit Linchpin private track, Pete, Sneaky Pete, he posted a question on our private Facebook group, and I'm going to encapsulate it here briefly. And the question was, first of all, I love the fact that people are just open and honest and vulnerable on that page because they feel comfortable to ask questions, which is phenomenal. So Pete asked, hey, shoot me straight, everybody. Am I a bad CrossFitter if not only am I not doing all of the movements that, you could say a lot of CrossFitters do, but some of them I'm not even trying to pursue. They're just not even on my to-do list. Maybe some of those things might be handstand walking. I believe ring muscle-ups was on the list, and potentially a squat snatch, something like that. So, and you could probably put on the list like a handstand push-up. So, hey, am I a bad CrossFitter if I'm not doing handstand push-ups, handstand walking, full squat snatches, and ring muscle-ups? I always do some sort of scale or modification when those things come up. And so that's what he asked out there. And he said, in full transparency, because a lot of people interacted on the post. It was very cool, exchange of information. But I interacted too, because he said he had some pain or discomfort when doing some of those movements. And I said, well, that's a very critical part of the whole story there. And there's also a difference between pain and discomfort. There's just discomfort associated with doing functional movements with some degree of intensity. It is what it is. You're going to experience discomfort on your way to long-term health and fitness. We don't want you to experience pain. As a matter of fact, that's the polar opposite. That's what we want you to avoid. So if something causes pain, we either got to figure out what's going on there. Is it something that can be healed, fixed through therapy, whatever it happens to be? And the answer is not always yes. Every human being walking the planet has had a very different life. Some people may have tight hips or shoulders or fill in the blank just because of some neglect, got some rusty hinges on the old gates, and with a little love and attention and consistency for several months, great improvements will be made, and those movements could be restored, or range of motion could be restored. You may have, and so you have to ask some questions to folks before you go, oh yeah, you know what, hey, just work a lacrosse ball in there, you're going to be fine. That's not really the case. You may have somebody that was in a life-threatening motorcycle wreck and has been put back together with plates and screws, and there's just some impingements in some joints that no amount of working is going to pass them beyond a certain point. So we got to get a little background information on the individual before we just say, oh yeah, just work that squat with the empty barbell and it'll get better. Not necessarily. So again, we've got to figure out pain or discomfort. Which one is it? If it's just discomfort and everything leads you to believe that discomfort could be overcome with intelligent movements and progression, scaling, therapy, stretching, mobility, things of that nature, great. If it's, no, I've got pain, legit, this is bad news, pain, well then we also want to figure out why, and then that's going to tell us whether or not we're going to pursue or not going to pursue. So, some people might not do all the movements in CrossFit, and that's fine. Now, there was another caveat, or another layer of the story into this question that he had. And that was that some of the movements, he was not pursuing, if I remember correctly, because of that pain, like we just said. Great, makes sense. Don't do it, especially if it's something which is not going to improve. But then he admitted that some of them, it wasn't pain, he was just not pursuing, just because he wasn't pursuing them. Like, I'm just not working on my handstand walk, and so I don't really see myself ever working on it. So, am I a bad CrossFitter for doing that? Will I get the results that I should? So on and so forth. So obviously feeling a little bit of guilt. You could probably ask 10 different people, 10 different coaches, and get 10 different answers. Here is I've given you my assessment thus far as to whether or not it is something which is just pain and not going to get better. Work around it. Avoid it. Hey, you got something going on with your shoulders and you can't overhead squat because, I don't know, you're a roofer and you fell off a third-story roof 5 years ago and you did something to your neck and back that's just never going to get better. You can't overhead squat. Who cares? Keep trying to get it better, but don't overhead squat. You can go below parallel with decent loading on a front squat, and if you can't do it with that, you do it on a back squat. And I don't know if you can't load your upper body in any way, shape, or form because that just feels terrible. You could hold dumbbells or kettlebells in your hands and do box step-ups. You could do walking lunges. Like there's something you could do that will strengthen your lower body, your midline, and get you on a path to wonderful fitness. We can always find a workaround. But now, if the other one is, like you said, some of them just not working because I'm just not working them. I feel like I could. They don't cause me any pain. I just don't feel like putting in time on my handstand walk. Are you a bad CrossFitter if you do that? No. Not by a long shot. At least that's my personal opinion. Is there benefit to handstand walking? Beyond a shadow of a doubt. Is there benefit to ring muscle-ups and full squat snatches? Beyond a shadow of a doubt. I mean, I've spent more time in this arena than anything else I've done on this planet, and I've seen athletes of all ages, of all capabilities, and I've seen ones that avoid complicated movements and one that embrace complicated movements, and it's just night and day. Your ability to execute complicated movements, even just with some degree of capacity, not necessarily beautiful that you're handstand walking and they want to put you in the U.S. Olympic team, but some degree of just the body awareness and the fight and the struggle that is involved with developing even a mediocre handstand walk is tremendous and will translate to other things. And trust me, from being married to a Division I, full ride scholarship gymnast and my wife, the body control, things that are just effortless for her are a struggle for me. So there's a translation for sure. However, if your goal is to be just fit, healthy, happy, ready for whatever life is going to throw at you, which is most likely not going to be a handstand walk. You want to play with your kids. You got to shovel your driveway when there's snow on the ground. You've got to live in the country, help your neighbor build a stone wall for half a day. Like, whatever it happens to be, you just want to have this real world capacity, then you're going to be able to do it without a whole bunch of fancy movements. Will the fancy and complicated movements make even the simpler movements better? It is my 100% opinion, yes. But I also think, let's say this particular individual, he never squat snatched again for the rest of his life. Maybe he can power snatch, okay? Still getting a wonderfully explosive hip opening there. He gets below parallel in 15 other ways, so he's fine. He gets overhead with shoulder presses and push presses. He's fine. Doesn't walk on his hands, doesn't do handstand push-ups. Maybe they hurt his neck or something like that. But like I just said, he's going overhead in all those other ways. And yes, the balance associated with the handstand walk isn't going to be there in the shoulder press, but I've got a feeling he's going to be just fine for real life. Maybe he doesn't like ring muscle-ups, got a wonky shoulder, always had a wonky shoulder. No matter what he does, it just seems to be wonky. I just wanted to keep saying that word over and over again. And so he doesn't do ring muscle-ups. And every time they come up, he doesn't even want to do low ring muscle-ups, with a leg assist. He just does pull-ups, chin over bar pull-ups, chest to bar pull-ups, and then he does ring dips. Or maybe the rings still just hurt his wonky shoulder, so he doesn't do ring dips. He does bar dips or dips off the side of a bench. T. Marquez, I see you. I think he's going to be absolutely just fine. 100% just fine. So if you didn't do ring muscle-ups and the rest of your life was just spent doing chest to bar pull-ups and dips off the side of a box or bench, I think you're going to have an amazing quality of life that will exceed anything that you need. Do I think you would have more capacity if you were able to do muscle-ups? I do. But I don't think this individual, when he's faced with some real-world task of, his buddy's putting up a basketball hoop in his side yard, and they're mixing concrete, and they're working all day long, and he's like, Pete, want to come over here and lend a hand? He goes, can't. I stopped doing muscle-ups a few years ago, and my capacity is just gone. I can't do anything in real life right now. I'm useless. I just don't really think that's going to happen. And if he has to climb over something, he's doing pull-ups and dips and rope climbs. I got a feeling he's probably going to be able to climb over something. So again, in an ideal world, do everything if you can. But if you can't, as long as you are doing scales or modifications that, to the best of your ability, replicate what the intended stimulus of that movement was in a way that is appropriate for your ability level and your capacity, I think you're going to be just fine. And also, here's another piece of it as well. If you're putting all this pressure on yourself that, hey, I'm following all these amazing athletes on Instagram and they're, handstand walking with a 700-pound vest on and doing whatever it is that they're doing, that's demotivating if you feel like that's what you have to do to be a good CrossFitter. And if you don't do that, you're a bad CrossFitter. If you're not just pursuing it all the time, you're not going to want to walk into the gym. And then if you start getting demotivated and walking into the gym isn't as fun as it used to be, you're going to start going into the gym less and less. And then even that wonderful pool of functional movements that you were doing, you're not going to be doing. And then it's going to just go out the window. So